Joining me on this episode of the Gray Area Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast for free, and subscribe to the YouTube channel also at Kevin Gray Sports. I have a young man who is a native Texan, especially of the DFW area, stays repping Irving and DFW. You can find him on Twitter at Master Tesfatsion of Bleacher Report. Master, what's going on, man?
What's good with you, man? Appreciate you for having me, man.
I appreciate you taking the time with me, man. I know you're a busy man these days, especially now in the middle of yet season 2 of Untold Stories. And it's funny because as I was kind of getting ready for this interview, I didn't realize that Untold Stories was a previous iteration under Bleacher Report before. And then season 1 you had last year, and now season 2 obviously taking off now. And I was looking, I was like, to be quite honest, I hadn't heard of Untold Stories until you had started doing this last season and now this season. Can you kind of tell us about the evolution of how you got involved in the project and how it has taken off since then?
Yeah, man. It kind of started off as like a little pilot concept.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got to Bleacher Report, before that, I was at the Washington Post. And one of the biggest reasons why I left the Washington Post to go to Bleacher Report was the promise of hosting my own show. 18 months later, that finally came to fruition. I think with just my storytelling capabilities, just felt like I was a good fit for that concept. And so took it over and then put my own spin on it, man. And really wanted to emphasize this kind of environment, this cozy environment that we could create with the pool hall that very much emulates kind of my experiences enjoying Rap City as a kid. And I always feel like how cool it was to be inside the basement, you know what I'm saying? And hearing, Dipset do their freestyles in the booth, you know what I'm saying? And huge influence in terms of the idea of the pool hall was, if you go back and watch the Rap City episode with UGK, with Pimp C and Bun B, you see how Pimp C's dropping gems while they're playing pool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been one of my favorite episodes of UGK, Underground Kings, one of my favorite rap groups of all time, one of my favorite influences of all time. I would always watch that episode on YouTube. But also there was a lot of connections within the pool hall. I feel like a lot of, Black people have had a experience playing pool at a very young age.
Yeah.
For me, it was at a rec center. We started off playing bumper pool, you know what I'm saying, over here in Northwest Park. And then, once you're old enough to 13, 14 years old, you can actually start playing real pool. And, you kind of, after playing 3 hours of basketball, you over there go with your homies and go play some pool. So just taking that concept and idea, that community that already exists within that, and starting to realize when I go to these athletes' cribs, they all have pool tables in their cribs. And they all have very similar experiences playing pool at a young age at a Boys and Girls Club, at the Uncle House, et cetera, et cetera. So it provided a great opportunity to do an activity while having the conversation. But it's also just a great activity to do while having a conversation, naturally speaking. So a lot of those stars kind of just aligned in terms of just the pool concept with that. I just felt like that was the best approach for this vehicle to share these stories in the way that we do.
And I think one of the things that I know I enjoy and that a lot of folks enjoy about the show is that the air of comfortability that you have with yourself and the athletes, and the way that you are able to communicate to get the kinds of stories out that for a lot of us, obviously we don't know these stories, and for them to feel comfortable enough to tell these stories in that setting. Is that something that you have taken pride in as far as this show is concerned, to be able to get the kinds of stories out that allows these athletes to really express themselves in the way that they are capable of doing on this show?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's something I've always taken pride in my career, whether I was at the Star Tribune covering the Vikings, whether I was covering the Washington football team for the Washington Post, whether it was a senior award-winning senior writer at Bleacher Report, always being able to give very candid conversations and interviews with athletes was always my bread and butter. Because for me at least, you obviously still look at them as the athletes that you remember as a kid, but there's a certain level of relatability in which I come with, and just understanding that, I grew up in a very predominantly African-American environment, you know what I'm saying? So it's when you understand it and look them beyond just the helmets that they wear, the jerseys that they wear, and you just look at them as people. For me, it just allows me to just be more conversational with them and not get too caught up in that inner child of me, you know what I'm saying, that just kind of always thinks about them in this gladiator pedestal prominence kind of light that I do, I just look at them as just regular folks. And I think they're very receptive to that, because oftentimes I don't think they're really received in that kind of way. You know what I'm saying? And there's very few people in which they're able to be received in that kind of way.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, that's kind of the approach I take. But, you know, through that, I still obviously, you know, studied the ethics of journalism, studied the principles of journalism, the core fundamentals of journalism to understand, like, you know, how to tell a story, you know what I'm saying, how to conduct an interview. And marrying those two has kind of been a, you know, through experiences, I've been able to kind of craft that and really hone in on what works for me. And I think Untold Stories essentially is the byproduct of those reps, those repetitions of every day going into the, you know, an NFL locker room, you know what I'm saying, or covering a football game or covering a basketball game, and just talking consistently to these people in various different spaces to get a better understanding of how, you know, I wanted to handle myself when it comes to these interviews. So, yeah, man, I do, man. There was a lot of time that put in there, a lot of work that put in that, a lot of things behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the effort that it took to get to this point that, you know, thankfully, you know, people are receptive to it and resonated with it. Not just, you know, only the audience, but the athletes are responding in a very positive light too, in terms of this experience and the platform that we're creating.
So let's take a step back for a second. So you're a native of Irving, Texas. You rep DFW.
Born in Dallas, you know what I'm saying? Born in Dallas, spent my first 5 years in Dallas, in Section 8, and then moved out to Irving because my folks was working at DFW airport. So we moved out in Section 8 here in Irving, closest to the airport. And Irving is very much so, you know, that's what I remember. You know what I'm saying? I don't remember too much from the Dallas years, you know what I'm saying, in my life. But yeah, Irving is definitely what I know and understand. And I know there's a lot of kind of, you know, look, man, like having traveled to Phoenix, you know, I went to school at Arizona State, you know what I'm saying, in Phoenix, spent some time living in Seattle, Minneapolis, DC, New York, you know what I'm saying? Like, Dallas is Dallas, you know what I'm saying? Like DFW is DFW, North Texas is North Texas. And I get the differentiations in terms of each city has, you know what I'm saying? But like when you end up leaving the city for an extended period of time, we're not talking about a week or two or a weekend, you know what I'm saying? Like years. And then you come back, like you start to appreciate the region and the culture of the region. And it's not necessarily kind of broken down in the way that you view it, where it's like, I mean, you can still tell the differentiating factors from people who grow up in different cities. Like, don't get me wrong, like someone who grows up in Denton is going to be completely different. You know what I'm saying? But within that, like, I'm not, even when I say completely different, I should kind of preface that. It's like, there's still going to be commonalities within that. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, I don't think in our region, we really truly embrace the fact of that. You know what I'm saying? And we do in certain extents. Like, obviously we all come together, you know what I'm saying, when the Cowboys suck, you know what I'm saying? and when they're doing well, like, you know, for the most part, we come together, you know, for those kind of experiences. But in terms of our commonalities, like there's a lot more commonalities that we have than differences that we have that, you know, I think, you know, coming back here now, that's something I'm just starting to embrace a little bit more. Like, and I'm not hiding from the fact, you know what I'm saying, that I am from Irving. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, you know what I'm saying? In the same way that, you know, like people from Von Miller to Akeem Talib, you know, they're also from different areas. Post Malone, you know what I'm saying? Like that's part of what comes with how big DFW is. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have a lot of talent in all these different pockets, and they're just sometimes going to pop up out of nowhere. You're not going to recognize and realize, like, where the hell that person come from? You know what I'm saying? But like being able to understand, finding ways as big as this market is, finding ways to like still make it feel small, so we can all, you know, find common ground on these things and find ways to collaborate with one another. That's something that I'm you know, with COVID making it a little bit more challenging, but that's something that, you know, I'm trying to put more of an emphasis on during my time here, because I think there's so much talent here, man, in this area, bro. There just is, man, and finding ways in which we can create the infrastructure here, so, you know, folks ain't got to go elsewhere, you know what I'm saying, to go get it. You know, I think Taylor Crumpton, shout out to her. She wrote a great book essay on Big Tuck's Purple Hulk. And within that, she's kind of explaining the lineage of just how it starts with the DOC and hip hop, and how essentially the DOC had to leave Dallas and go to LA to essentially be respected and receive the accolades and recognition that he was looking for in the industry. And obviously the book states that he eventually ends up coming back. But since then, it's kind of created this environment where, you know, if you want to go get it, you got to go, you know, you got to go elsewhere,
Yeah.
you know? And I would love to spend the time, you know what I'm saying, while I'm here to try and create that and establish that infrastructure and push that thing forward so we can, you know what I'm saying, we can create the infrastructure here where
build it on our own. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah.
Like I love it here, man. Coming back, I've been gone for so long now. Like it's what 2020 now. I graduated high school 2009, so I've been gone for like 11 years now. And coming back, man, like I feel whole in many ways. You know that I haven't in you know, other my journeys and experiences that I had. I think when I left in 2009, I was ready to leave. Like just
he was ready
the environment
to go.
I was in, the people I was around, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I was just ready to leave. Like I felt like if I was here any longer, like I was going to end up in a situation I did not want to end up in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For I don't think it would have been for the better. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to leave. I wanted to explore. I wanted to let my curiosity run and go to these different cities. And each time I went to those cities, I just always noticed how different I was from the way that other people, and you would find ways to understand and appreciate these different cities. And I've loved every stop that I've been at, but there's just something different about Dallas, man. There's just something different about this place and this area and the people here that I just have thoroughly missed, you know, and coming back here, man, I go for morning walks every morning now, and it's just been enjoyable to see, like, you know, the same school buses that you would ride up on, you know what I'm saying, while you were a 12-year-old in the school bus, tired, you know, you're 14 years old on the school bus in high school, you know, tired as fuck, you know what I'm saying, because it's 7 a.m, like, and you're wondering why this, like, older man is just randomly walking at 7:30 in the morning, like, what the hell you doing, dog? You should be in bed. Like, if I was you, I'd be in bed. Like,
right.
I can't wait till I'm grown and I can fall asleep. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And now you're on the other side of that, and you're understanding as you're seeing those school buses pass, like, why that person is up. You know what I'm saying? Because that person's now you. And there's certain moments and situations which, you know what I'm saying, your curiosity just kind of runs, and you're put in these different situations when you're in your own city, that now I can kind of see the flip side of these things, that other times I just don't have the bond with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so many school buses have passed by me when I lived in New York, when I lived in DC, when I lived in Minneapolis, and I haven't paid any mind because I didn't feel connected to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just another car on the road to me. You know what I'm saying? Where here it's like, oh, that's the school bus number, this, and this. I already know where it's going. That's going to this elementary school right here. Oh, that's going to middle school. You know what I'm saying?
It's a certain connection. Yeah.
It's absolutely, it's a completely different connection with that, man. And it's something I'm embracing. I'm enjoying in this time in a year that's been, you know, very challenging for a lot of people. But I'm trying to find joy in these different ways, man. It's been very fulfilling.
And one of the things that I found interesting about you is that in kind of listening and seeing and reading some of the things, you know, and getting ready for this, is that you had a certain connection and affinity for the DMV area out in the Washington area when you were covering the Washington football team. What was it about that area that you felt like was a special connection for you, about the people you may have interacted with, and how you were able to really feel like you were a part of that, you know, environment out there in that area?
Yeah, man. Bro, I loved the DMV, man. It was, I did not want to leave the DMV and go to New York. I simply didn't. It embraced me in such a way, man, and it felt so comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pace was, you know, a little bit more quicker, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't too quick where, you know, it didn't lose kind of some of its Southern charm that it still has because of its closeness and proximity to Virginia.
Yeah.
Which very much to me, it felt like I was, you know, it was like a sweet and sour combination that just kind of was really working well for me. And obviously, I mean, it's still Chocolate City, you know, like that part to me was just, you know, coming from Minneapolis and then going to DC, it was, man, it was great, man. It was just great to see professional Black people everywhere you went, you know, and myself as well. I'm Eritrean, and seeing how massive that Eritrean community is over there, the Habesha community there, shout out to them. It was, man, it was incredible, man. It just felt like it really tied into like basically damn near every single part of my identity. You know what I'm saying? Me growing up in the South, me being an Eritrean, me being a Black man, me being, you know, a hungry, ambitious Black professional.
You found all that in one area, it sounded like.
Yeah, man. It was, man, I still to this day, man, like I spent 3 years in DC, in New York after that, or 2.5 years in New York after that. And New York took me some time to kind of adapt and get it acclimated to. And during the tail end of it, I was able to understand, like, okay, I get why people like really rock with New York. You know what I'm saying? It's cool with me. But to this day, man, like, there's no other city I enjoyed more than DC. It's flat out. It was an incredible experience. The people were dope. I make a lot of fun of. I make fun of Washington football fans now, but man, they were great, man. Like, they're very passionate. You know what I'm saying? They're emotional. You know what I'm saying? They care a lot about their fan base. So as a writer, it's easy to talk to them. You know what I'm saying? Because you can talk and relate to them on a different level than you can with other fans. And there's a great deal of respect that I will still have, no matter how much time I try to talk shit with Washington football fans. It's always coming from a side of respect, because I've seen who they are, I've seen how they operate, I see how much they care, and I'm always gonna keep that in the back of my mind every single time I engage and interact with them.
They definitely gave the Cowboys the blues twice this year.
All right, you can slow down.
Look, I'm a third generation Dallas Cowboy fan. Okay, I had an uncle play for Tom Landry in the Ice Bowl, so I'm third generation. I bleed blue and silver just like anybody else. And to watch Washington stomp us out the first time in DC and then come down here and do it again, my heart was hurt. Like, my heart was completely hurt, and I can't stand it to this day. So
I mean, we ain't got to talk about this either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, like, for all intents and purposes, whether it's a performance, whether it's because of coach, like, this season has been terrible.
Yeah. That's the best way to kind of sum up how the season has been. Hopefully, when Dak Prescott comes back next year, all will be, well with the
world. But, I hope everything goes well. I hope he doesn't have a hitch in his recovery.
Yeah.
And I hope they pay that damn man, because he definitely deserves it. And I think his absence has clearly made it as apparent as it possibly can who the heartbeat of this team is. You know what I'm saying? Like, Ezekiel Elliott was not just saying those kind of things just to say those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, it very much is true. Like, Dak is the heart and soul of this team. He's the leader of this team, and he should be compensated appropriately for that. And I don't blame him one bit for, playing the game as it is, trying to get his Kirk Cousins on. I hope he comes back healthy as hell. I hope he balls the fuck out. And I hope he gets his $40 million. And I hope by the time he balls out, I hope it's 42. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope he gets every dollar he deserves, man, because he absolutely deserves it.
So take me inside the mind of the grind when it comes to this business. A lot of folks get into this business, and they do so because they want to not only be able to cover and tell the stories of these athletes, but also create a kind of personal fulfillment, I would think, that allows them to feel connected to something that's even bigger than a lot of folks get a chance to really actually do. What is that grind like for you, and how you have embraced it to be able to forge your career the way that you have and put yourself in the spaces that you have and the opportunities that you've been able to take advantage of?
Yeah, man. It varies, man, because it can be a very fulfilling, very rewarding career. But it's also a very daunting, challenging, difficult, frustrating, time-consuming career as well. I think about those times when I was a beat writer, man. Like, you're spending like 18-hour days working sometimes, 19-hour days working sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And like, especially on road games, you got to think, man. Road game, like say the Cowboys play on a Sunday night, okay, and Cowboys are playing the Washington football team, Monday night game, okay? You're in DC for the game, okay? So you probably get to the game around like 4 o'clock, okay? Game doesn't end till like midnight 1. You probably filing whatever you got at 2. You probably, if you're lucky, you're getting about 90 minutes of sleep, okay?
Yeah.
But if you're not, you're up all night because you've got a 5 a.m. flight to catch back to Dallas, because the next morning, the head coach is going to speak at the podium, and you have to be present there to go write another story. And it's those kind of turnarounds that just become very daunting. It's because essentially, you catch your 5 a.m. flight, you land back in Dallas about like, 9 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? Just rough estimations. I don't know what those time slots are, but like 8 or 9 o'clock. Okay. set your bags down, you know what I'm saying? And you're probably just hacking away at something that you were supposed to get done on a flight, but you decided to sleep on a plane. And, you're hacking away on that. You probably haven't eaten all day. And then the press conference probably happens at noon. And then after the press conference, you're hacking away again because the head coach probably said something on there that you got to get turned around for either the newspaper or turn around for the website.
Yeah.
And then you're working up until that point, till about 3 or 4 o'clock. And now we're talking about probably 36 hours nonstop of working.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's that I just described right now was a 24-hour period right there. And if you're lucky, you're able to squeeze all that into a 24-hour period. And it's those kind of turnarounds that just, again, they become very daunting and very.
And you're doing this week over week over week,
over
70 weeks. Yeah.
Let's not talk about training camp, but you're doing training camp every day. Training camp to me is even more challenging. You know what I'm saying? Because you got walk through, you got to practice. Like, you're working literally from 9 to 9. So it's a lot of work, man. It really is a lot of work, and it will drive you insane oftentimes. And so, you try to justify it by, just recognizing and acknowledging the fact of just how dope this is, what you're doing, being able to look at 12-year-old self and seeing this opportunity of you being involved in this kind of world, is the appeal to it. For me, that kind of appeal started kind of dwindling out, as I was a beat writer, because,
I can imagine how tired you were every single day, doing that.
It also necessarily wasn't a dream for me because, like, I never dreamed like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was, I was too naive to dream like this. So this wasn't necessarily like, when I grow up, I'm gonna be this. You know what I'm saying? And I think there are a lot of people who can maintain being in this kind of, this flow of things because this is what they always set out to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and being able to accomplish that and being able to wake up every morning knowing you were living out your dream, like, that is an incredible feeling. You know what I'm saying? For me, that wasn't necessarily the case. So, like, whenever I felt like, yo, this shit ain't it, I really felt that. You know what I'm saying? And there wasn't really, like, and it's not to say they didn't feel that either, but, like, for me, it was like, I feel that. What am I gonna do about it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of how I've been, trying to, like, further broaden what that fulfillment is. And I think, like, ultimately what it is for me is being able to be in positions to be creative and being able to be a storyteller. Those are the two things that I feel like every day when I wake up, that fulfills me in such a way where, like, no matter what's going on, no matter how I'm feeling, like, like that is like my heart and soul, being able to be in these positions and opportunities to share genuine stories of people and their experiences of what they've really gone through. Because for me, like, as a kid, I've always enjoyed hearing different people's perspectives. I've always been very, very curious and just trying to understand how different people operate. I'm a first generation American. My parents aren't from this country. They're from Eritrea. And so, growing up with two parents that don't speak English, that don't know the lay of the land, and, it caused you to grow up very fast.
Yeah.
I'd say, like, in second or third grade, like, as I'm learning who the 16th president of the United States is, you know what I'm saying? I'm having to go back home and go teach my mom these things because she's got a citizenship test to pass.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And it's been, it was part of my responsibility to make sure my mom passed that test. You know what I'm saying? So once you're put in these and thrust in these situations in that kind of way where you're forced to grow up faster, you quickly start to realize, like, what the shortcomings are from the experiences and the voices and the perspectives around you. And my childlike curiosity from there just kicked in, where I would just try and talk to as many different people as I can, just figure out, like, oh, what's your life like? You know what I'm saying? And that part to me is what I'm still channeling through this profession, is what I'm channeling through Untold Stories. And that part to me, I could wake up every day and do that because I love to learn that perspective. I love to learn what other people's perspectives are and just to get a better understanding of what their perspectives are. So it was a trial and error period of understanding what that moment was like for me or what that experience like for me. But, being able to find it now, that's the part that feels so fulfilling now. And that's what allows me to deal with those daunting tasks that, I still deal with, but you know what I'm saying? But it just looks a little different than what it did before.
Yeah. And it was interesting as you were saying that, it made me think about as far as your upbringing was concerned, was this something that your parents encouraged you to do, or was
Oh, hell
there?
no.
No,
Hell
no,
no.
no, not at
Nah.
all.
Nah. Nah. My dad was big on me doing business, me being an
Okay,
entrepreneur. My mom, I think she wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. Just very like African dreams, you know,
sure.
immigrant dreams. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, your parents come to this country with this idea, this you know, whether you want to say it's true or not, this idea of freedom and the American dream, and unpacking that in such a way that's very loaded, but it's always served to people outside of this country and people coming from third world countries like my parents in such a way where it just feels so freeing, you know, and that you can really truly dream these crazy ambitions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But those kind of ambitions also are just very narrow lane perspectives, because oftentimes they just come from perspectives of those people that came before them that have done these things. You know what I'm saying? And you know, traditionally, you know, I guess in a previous time and probably sometime now too, you know, the whole goal was you come to a different country. You know what I'm saying? Learn how to be a doctor, how to be a lawyer, then you come back to the country and you become a doctor.
yeah,
You're the local doctor. You're the local attorney. You know what I'm saying? All these different aspects. And so, like, services is the reason why you would leave. But now it's literally for freedom. You know,
yeah,
having understood that, they still had this idea of like, oh, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be you end up having very narrow lanes of what you really believe you're capable of doing. Being creative is not one of them. You know, there's no immigrant parent that ever grew up ever thinking that their child was going to be a creative, unless them themselves was like an artist. You know,
yeah,
like it's not something that you just, you know, go from, you know, social work to, you know what I'm saying, all of a sudden, you know, you're an artist. Like it doesn't happen like that. So no, I never imagined this. My parents never imagined this. My siblings never imagined this. My sister kind of always reminds me how amazed she is that I've been able to do this, because it's just something that just kind of, for my family, just like, oh shit, damn, he's doing this and he's doing well in this. Like, okay,
yeah,
I see you. You know what I'm saying? But it's been great, man. It's each time, like, it's just causing me to just, like, you know, unpack something, you know what I'm saying? Break down a barrier, break down a wall, challenge myself, you know what I'm saying? Really push myself to the limit to really understand, like, what I'm capable of doing. And that part of it also has been fulfilling, because it's providing a level of personal growth for me that I'm really, really enjoying. You know, I don't
yeah,
think personal growth has ever really been a priority of mine ever in my life. But through this journey and through this process of pursuing this career, just understanding areas and ways in which I can grow, and seeing what that looks like on the professional side, and then realizing what capabilities I have to grow personally as well through that, and understanding how those two things kind of go hand in hand, and you know how your professional growth benefits your personal growth benefits your professional growth, and enjoying those two entities as separate entities, but also the moments in which they come together and make you a better storyteller, make you a better interviewer, you know what I'm saying, make you more
yeah.
relatable and understandable to the person you're interviewing and to the audience itself.
So tell me, because I'm interested to hear this from you, because I can imagine you may have had some of these moments, you know, quite a bit along the way. What was that one kind of aha moment, like, you know what, I can do this? And this was that moment that kind of sent you on your way to give you either that personal belief or just a reaffirmation of this is the right thing that I'm supposed to be doing with my life.
I've had a couple of them. I think for me, working at the Star Tribune was that moment. Um, I graduated college 2013 at Arizona State. Entered kind of like a fickle, and I mean, it's like this industry is always fickle as it is, but like at the time, I took a season-long internship. Shout out to TR Sullivan, TexasRangers.com. Worked with him for an internship covering the Texas Rangers for this season. And at the tail end of it, you know, I was just applying. I was applying during games for jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like, didn't know what I wanted to do. And an opportunity popped up to cover the Minnesota Vikings for the Star Tribune. And I appreciate, you know, Glenn Crevier, Chris Miller, and Tim McGuire, who was my professor at ASU at the time, but also used to work at the Star Tribune before that, for the opportunity. Because, you know, I was 6 months out of college, and all of a sudden, like, I go from not knowing what the hell I'm about to do to covering the NFL team. You know, like I literally thought it was going to take like 5 more years to even get to that place, because at the time, 7 years ago, it sounds crazy now, but like at the time, it was just unheard of, to cover the NFL straight out of college. It's a lot more common now, but at the time, it was just like it was one of
those things where I'm sure you had to like earn your stripes in previous years. Like
you had to earn your stripes. Doing high school stuff, or at least I was looking more so at college jobs because I thought like, look, I'm cool with doing the high school stuff, but like, let me see if I can cover a college team. You know what I'm saying? I just was covering the ASU football and basketball for 4 years. Let me see if I can stay in the college ranks because I seem to understand that very well. Boom. And I can leverage that to get to the NFL. I never thought I would go, you know what I'm saying, straight to the league. You know what I'm saying? And so, man, that opportunity for me and just going to Minnesota, which was a place I never thought I would ever go in my life. You know what I'm saying? Seeing just a completely different part of the world, of America, and covering that team, man, it was such a surreal experience. It really was. And I think being in that space was like, oh, all right, we're here. Like, we're not only here, like we're here a little bit faster than we thought we were going to be here. So what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, I'm looking at myself and having these conversations. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you going to make the most of this or you just going to be content with this? You know what I'm saying? So from that point, I just knew like, cool, like we're here, so we might as well fuck it up. Like we might as well, do some, like if we're already doing something that you feel is unprecedented, let's keep that energy. You know what I'm saying? So that to me, I'll always be appreciative for those that gave me that opportunity, which I feel like I did a really good job when I was there, to provide another opportunity going to the Washington Post, which also was just like, crazy because everyone in college, like, our college professors, I forget, like I'd always have one class that always kind of made you read like, the news and keep up with current events. And then they do like some stupid pop quizzes and stuff. I never read any of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because reading the newspaper is very much a financial asset. Like it's a privilege. It's a luxury.
It's very true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a luxury in which, like, unless the newspaper man threw the Dallas Morning News on the wrong door front, you know what I'm saying?
You
like,
getting it.
Yeah, I wasn't getting that. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't something that was just like what ingrained in me. And so, but through that, one of the papers that we had to read was Washington Post. And sometimes, my friends would read it in college at the time, and they'd be like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy if one day our byline's in this? You know what I'm saying? That'd be so sick. Like, that'd be a life goal accomplishment. And in my mind, I'm like, shit, the fuck the Washington Post gonna do with me? There's no way in hell they gonna have my ass over there. You know what I'm saying? Like even as they're talking, like, to me, it just was like, it was never even a concept. It was never even an idea. You know what I'm saying? And then fast forwarding like 4 years after that experience, like the Washington Post is calling you, and then you end up being, like, I think at the time, the youngest beat writer to cover the team ever. Like that was like, man, like that was an incredible experience, man. It just those two moments, man. And I have my own thoughts in terms of newspapers and the state of newspapers now, and the reason why I got at newspapers. But those two moments there, bro, it was something I never imagined, never something I anticipated, never something I expected. That were both just really just life-changing moments for me.
And it's as you were talking about that, it made me think, obviously you're going through these moments and experience it, but you obviously still have a job to do, and you're developing these kinds of relationships along the way. How important has that been as far as your career is concerned? And now fast forwarding it, obviously, to the Untold Stories that you do now with Bleacher Report, and developing those kinds of relationships along the way to be able to be in this particular position now?
It's been essential. It's been the God honest truth, essential. Because it's given me opportunities and access and a level of privilege to really see how things work behind the scenes, and really being able to be in a position where I could peel back the layer and display to the audience that is clearly thirsty and hungry for a different style of storytelling, a different style of the way sports is presented, exactly that. From my own experience, from my own perspective, from my own creativity, and obviously shout out to the team also on the Untold Story side, Lakia Holmes, We Are Not Pilgrims, Johnny Sweet, and a couple other folks who played incredible roles in ensuring that we can execute this vision. It's that part of it has been crucial, man. It just being able, like, Plaxico Burress, like, I don't think this part made the episode. Yeah, it did make the episode. But this part didn't make the episode where he's talking about the foot specialist that, that he went to go see. And as we kept talking, he was talking about how he got fined at some point. I was like, oh, damn, man, you got the FedEx? And he kind of just stopped and paused and looked at me. He's like, damn, how the fuck you know that? And it's like, he's like, your shit. Like, yeah. It showed me two things. Like, again, like the importance of the again, I was in the room, so I've seen these things, so I understand what that's like. But then also just the rarity of the other person on the other side sharing these stories with someone that has experienced those things or understands those things.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? It provides a whole different understanding and a whole different other, a level of eye to eye that you guys can see when you're able to share and understand and inform. Like, I'm hip, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know exactly, like, I know to a certain extent, you know what I'm saying, what it is that you're talking about. And so that wouldn't have been possible without beat writing. Simply put, it provided me the access and the ability to just let my curiosity run wild on two organizations that I covered, the Minnesota Vikings and the Washington football team, that, to me will be experiences that I will always keep with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And as you were mentioning the Plaxico Burress episode, it made me start to think about some of the favorite episodes that I've consumed of this particular show. One of them being the Percy Harvin episode, to me, was one of the most fascinating episodes. Well, I was doing some writing at the time for a publication, and I would be anticipating the new episodes each week because somebody's going to tell a story that's going to go viral here, and I want to be able to write about it. And one of the ones that first came to my mind when I was writing was the Percy Harvin episode. What have been some of the craziest things that you have heard from these guys as you've been able to have these conversations that you thought, I would not have thought that this would have come out of, Percy Harvin or Plaxico or whomever you have talked to as far as the story is concerned?
Yeah, the Devin Hester one, which has been going crazy right now on Twitter. I kind of knew. He
let loose on Jay Cutler.
Yeah, here's the thing though. It's like, again, when you, it's interesting for me because, like, I got one foot in, but I also don't have both feet in. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, the Percy Harvin situation with him and Golden Tate, like, I knew about that. Like, I had sources that told me about that. So it's like a good level of understanding, which I had on that, but I just never knew the whole story. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the curiosity is able to allow me to just, like, trying to vividly paint a picture from my own head and understand what went on. But then in turn, I'm also doing that for the audience. Same thing with the Devin Hester episode. It's like, I know a lot of people don't like Jay Cutler. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like to the depth of what's, like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like why is it that people don't like Jay Cutler? And hearing Devin Hester share it in such an honest and truthful way, I think it just kind of further displayed to other people, like, the real challenges that go on within a football team. It's no different than, like, what me and you have to go through in a workplace. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's an opportunity that we have as beat writers to cover an organization in a way that's really unprecedented any other way. Like, who's going to the Fan every day and write, you know what I'm saying? Like, interviewing you and interviewing, every on-air personality about what goes on and then writing a story about that every day. You know what I'm saying? And then critiquing and judging, like, how each show it is, how it goes on. Like, that doesn't happen anywhere. So besides the White House, you know what I'm saying? Like, so having known that and having understood that, it provides a better understanding for people, the complexities that exist within this, the different personalities, the different subcultures, the different races, the different religions, the different socioeconomic statuses that all have to somehow come together for one goal. In the same way that everyone at your job has to come together to make a show, everyone at my job has to come together, you know what I'm saying, to make Bleacher Report the best sports destination for millennials and Gen Z audiences. Like, we all have these common goals that we have to go through within our own jobs that we have. And being able to shed light on that, I think it provides another layer of relatability within that, because you see what Devin Hester's sharing, you know what I'm saying? You see what Percy Harvin's sharing, and ultimately, like, sometimes you just go back and through your own, Rolodex, and you're just like, damn, have I met a Jay Cutler before? You know what I'm saying? Like, it
makes you think. It does.
Do that.
Yeah,
exactly. You can't help but do that. So that's the part that I enjoy within these stories, is being able to tell such in-depth stories that provide those kind of layers for people to really being able to receive this, not just from, like, the informational standpoint and being more informed of the situation, but then from just an emotional standpoint, being able to understand and feel something as you hear these stories being told.
Yeah, no, the stories are incredible. It makes you think of So the Clinton Portis, the Henny game, also Darnell Dockett, getting stopped with the
Yeah.
ATV and the four wheelers. I'm just like, this stuff is wild, man. And it's amazing that these are the kinds of stories that, as fans who watch the show and just in general who consume it, these are the kinds of things that we want to hear about, because we see, and I think you've mentioned this before, how militaristic the NFL is covered and the way that these athletes are portrayed, given the team concept and what the NFL tries to do in protecting the shield, that these kinds of stories really let us in about these are just regular dudes out here who just happen to be extraordinary mid playing football. But to have them go through the things that they go through, I think is a fascinating way, especially the creative way that it's done with the illustrations and everything else. I think it's just honestly something that I didn't think we would be able to see in this format before. And I'm sure that as you continue to do so, I'm sure your team is just like, every time the anticipation of another episode comes up, it's just something to be celebrated there.
It's been the most fun I've had in my career, and it's been such a great team working with it too, and all of us just kind of like trying to figure out other ways in which we can push the boundaries, ways we can make this thing better. It truly has been such a dope experience, man, and I'm happy to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Happy to play the role that I play for it, and excited to keep this thing going, man.
Yeah.
Like it just. I think it's opened up so many doors now and so many different conversations that can be had now in terms of understanding, okay, where else can we take this? And that's the part to me that's even more exciting, because, it allows you to keep breaking down these barriers and keep breaking down these walls in terms of just how these people are viewed, man. Because very few times do you see such transparency, or you see such visibility for Black people, and it allows people to truly understand who these people are, besides how many yards they rushed for, how many touchdowns they threw for, and you really start to understand the identity of these different people and the people that they represent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like who they put on for beyond themselves. If that's even the case, you know what I'm saying? Like because the idea of Black people being a monolith has been so stupid, in this idea that like every Black person thinks and acts the same. It's just ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? So like, but instead of just continuously saying how ridiculous it is, I'm just going to show you. You know what I'm saying? And there's no way in hell that you can look at all the different guests that we've had on the show and can still think that, simply put. So yeah. I'd much rather do it through actions than do it through words, and allowing you to see it for yourself. And that part of it has been, incredible. That part of it has been worth, every single restless night, every single headache, every single, every emotion I've experienced on this. So it's every joy, everything, man. So that I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic show. And as we get you ready to get you out of here, this has been a wonderful, fun conversation. What are you working on now? What's next for you as you continue to not only evolve this show, but the other creative aspects of what you're attempting to do and what you're trying to get out there as far as storytelling is concerned?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously still definitely holding down, pushing Untold Stories, trying to get this Twitch stream off the ground. I don't know if you can see the backdrop here.
Yeah.
I got my little, my custom PC here right next to me over here. You can kind of see the light illuminating off my hand. Definitely want to get into the streaming world, man. And just, being able to shoot the shit, having conversations like this, you know what I'm saying? With just regular folks and just having a good time. And also just trying to, figure out a way to get into Hollywood and within script writing and getting in the IP side. So got some things in the works on that front, and trying to figure out and getting a better understanding of how that side of the world works. But I think the digital world just allows you so much to own a lot of the things that you create. And that part for me has been very enticing. And because, I do spend a lot of time thinking about things and trying to craft things based off of a lot of information that I gathered. That the ownership component of it is something that, at least for the last 5 years, I've been trying to figure out how exactly I can get into the fray on that. Because I wrote thousands of stories for the Washington Post. I wrote thousands of stories for the Minneapolis Star Tribune. I don't own a single story I wrote. And that part to me has not been lost on me. And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy it. It's not to say that that wasn't fulfilling, but I'm starting to understand kind of how the game is played and how the business side of this game is played, and truly understanding the importance of owning your intellectual property is something for me that I'm trying to figure out different ways in which I can enhance that and use the gifts that I have to mirror that with the understanding and the knowledge that I have now of the game. And so that ways, you know, there could be a lot more creative freedom that exists when you own your own IP.
And I'm not just saying this because, you know, I could say it, but I would not be surprised if we saw you win an Academy Award or an Emmy or anything of that nature, because the way that it appears that you have continued to grow in this space, I couldn't see why not you couldn't win something of that nature. So I don't know if anybody's ever told you that. If they have, that's great.
That'd be crazy, man.
Because I feel like you have all of that and more in you. So I feel like the sky is the limit based on, you know, what we've seen so far. So I just wanted to make sure I expressed that. So when you win one, you say, hey, that guy told me a while back, along with other folks, I could win one of these things.
This clip gonna go viral when that happens.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Master, tell the folks where they can find you on your social media and your platforms there.
You can find me on Twitter at Master TES. You can find me on Twitch at Master TES. Find me on Instagram, Master_Tesfatsion, TESFATSION. Those are the three main platforms that I use, man. You check me out on those. YouTube page should be coming soon. You know what I'm saying? TikTok, I got that too. I think I'm trying to remember what my TikTok is. Hold on. I forget what my TikTok is real quick. Hold on. Master Tesfatsion, no underscores, whole full first name and last name. Catch me on TikTok there, trying to do a couple things there, trying to figure out if I can use that platform, but you ain't gonna see me doing no dance. I ain't with all that. That's about the most dance you're gonna see me doing.
He is the host of Untold Stories. Season 2 is out now. You can find him on Twitter at Master Tesfatsion. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Hey,
really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.